Crafty Corner, and I have a new project for us today, and it's this cute little book right here. And what this is a cover that you can use on your planner. And so if you're one of those people that has one of those little planners that you throw in your purse, keep track of your doctor's appointments and those types of things, and the cover's getting a little bit ratty, this is the cover for it. So let me show you this real quick. So we'll start by just opening it up. It has a simple brad here at the center, and the brad just allows us to use it as a hitch to wrap our ribbon around. And I'm going to show you the back first. So on the back, we have this little pocket right here. And this is a gusseted pocket, so it has some extension to it. And it just stays closed with this little flap. Now you could put some Velcro on here, or you could put a snap on it, however you want to close it. But it does close pretty good with just by wrapping the ribbon around the whole piece. And then on the inside, we have our appointment book right here in the middle. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And the first thing I'm going to do is get you out some supplies, and I will be right back to show that to you. Okay, supply list for this one. Adhesive, scissors, a ruler, a bone folder and scoring tool, a paper trimmer, some decorated paper. I'm using Secret Garden. This is cardstock. It's not the thickest cardstock, but it is cardstock, and it is slightly thicker than regular scrapbooking paper. You're going to need some cardstock and a scoreboard. Okay? Now, you're going to have some pieces that are going to be pretty much standard, but because everybody's book is going to be a different size, you are going to have to kind of work this out. Now, the book that I'm going to be covering today is pretty much a standard size. It's 6.5 inches high, and it's roughly 3 3/4 wide. But I want to show you how to fit this so you can get started, and then the rest of the pieces, it's just the height that's the issue. Okay? So for the first one, what we're going to do is we're going to place a piece of cardstock into our scoreboard, and we are going to mark a score at a 1/2 inch. Then we're going to fold that in. This doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want a 1/2 inch. And then what you're going to do is take your journal or day planner or notebook or phone book or whatever it is you're making this for. You're going to put it in there all the way, and you're just going to wrap this around. Okay? Then you're going to put this in your board here, and it comes to, for me, it comes to right at 3 3/4, and I'm just going to go a 1/2 inch out from that, right there, and for me that's 4 1/4, and then I'm just going to cut this. Okay, so at the 3 3/4 mark, I'm going to score, that down, and then I'm going to give myself a 1/2 inch. So what I will do is get my cutter, take my book out, and I'm just going to give myself that 1/2 inch. Okay, and I've marked it, so I know where it's at. And I'm going to keep this because I'm going to use it. So now I have my 1/2 inch, and I'm going to fold that in. Okay, so now this should fit perfectly onto my book, and there's my book cover. Okay, so now from here I'm going to give you the rest of the measurements, and we're going to start the assembly. Okay, so let's get some things out of the way. So this is my base that I just measured, and it fits my book. When I put my book in here, it fits it nicely. So I have my cover. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be working on is that flap that comes over the front, and that piece is right here, and it is whatever the height of your book is by 4.5 inches across. We're going to do some scoring on here. So to score this, we're going to put it into our scoreboard, and we're going to score at the 1/2 inch, and then at the 3/4 inch, and then we're going to come over and we're going to score at 3 3/4. Okay? So just 3 scores on that one. Now the only other scoring you're going to be doing is you're going to be reserving some pieces that are 1-inch strips by your length, and you're just going to score these down the middle or fold them in half, whichever works for you. But we're going to be using them, so we do want quite a bit of that. Okay? The rest of the pieces for this, we need to build the pocket on the back. And so on the back pocket, we have a piece that is 2 3/4 by 5.5. So it's the height of my book. And then this one is 2 inches wide. And that's going to be the pocket and the flap for the back. So we have that. Now that's all we need to cut out of cardstock. All right. Now we do need to make sure that one of these strips is at least 6.5 inches long. Now we're going to cut some mats. To cut mats for this, we are going to cut 2 mats that are 6 1/4. That is 1/4 of an inch less the length. So you're just reducing everything by 1/4 by 3.5. Okay, so we have 2 of those. Then we have 1 piece of 6 1/4 by 3 3/4. 1 piece of 6 1/4 by 2 3/4. 1 piece of 6 1/4 by 2.5. 1 piece of 6 1/4 by 1 3/4. And then you're going to want some other pieces. If you want to put a little pocket in, you might want to cut a little pocket to put on the inside cover. And you're going to be making a medallion for this. Now I'm going to give you the measurements for it, but we're going to go back over that. You need 1 piece of black or 110 cardstock. All right, so the first part we're going to work on is this little medallion here that goes on the front, just to get it out of the way. So we're going to be cutting actually 4 pieces of paper for this one. So the first one we're going to use is going to be some chipboard or 110-pound cardstock. This is the Recollections 110. It's not totally 110. It's more like 95, but it works. So we're going to cut a piece of that is 3 by 2.5. Then we are going to cut a piece of the paper that we're using for our primary. And this is going to be at 2 3/4 by 2 1/4, so that it gives you that nice little 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Then we're going to be cutting a piece of our decorated paper at 2.5 by 2, which we're going to mount on top of here. And then we're going to have 1 piece that is 3 inches by 1 3/4, and this is going to go on the back here, so that when we open the flap, this is a very nice look. It's not all muckied up, okay? Because we're going to be putting a brad through here, so we don't want to see the back of the brad. So I'm going to go ahead and put this piece of paper over the back. So we'll just build this real quick, and we're just going to put some glue on our decorated paper. We're going to mat that to the colored paper. Then we're going to put glue on the colored paper and mat that to the black piece, okay? So we're just watching our lines here, making sure that we have that about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And we're doing this for looks as well as for the weight, okay? And then we'll do the 1/4 inch on this one. Go. Now, we're not going to put this piece on the back just yet, but we are going to put these to the side. So I'm just going to clip them together and set them over here so I know where they're at. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our cover and we're going to fold in our first piece. And then over here, the other 1/2 inch piece, we're going to fold that backwards. We're going to fold it to the outside, okay? And then we're going to take our 4.5 inch piece. And we have this little 1/2 inch flap here that's right by that 1/4 inch. We are going to attach this to this. So we're going to put some glue on here. Now with that flap folded out, we are going to take this piece and line it up on the fold. Just right along the fold. And then we're going to secure that. So what we should have is a piece that looks kind of like this. So you have your front piece here. This is your cover. This is that other end flap. And then this is your cover piece. Okay? So now we can glue this piece down. And since this isn't a pocket, if you wanted to, you could use just a regular double-sided tape here. So we're going to take this and put it down. Use our bone folder just to make sure that we get that glue even. And then we're going to take that strip that we cut, and we're going to cut a piece of it that is 6.5 inches long. It needs to be the length of our book, okay? So I'm just going to put it here under my ruler, get it to 6.5, and then I'm going to cut this off. You can do this in your trimmer if you want to. Now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to glue it down on that 1/2 inch flap. So I'm just going to cover this 1/2 inch piece with this little flap. Okay, so now this then becomes the piece that holds our book in. So if we put our book here, we're going to see that this piece is going to hold this end of our book, okay? And this then becomes our front cover. Pretty tricky, right? Okay, so now let's move on to the matting. We don't want to glue this down because we're going to glue this to our book, okay? And this piece over here is actually going to become the hinge for the flap on our pocket. So I will explain all of that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and get our mats out, and I'll be right back, and we will get these all glued down. Okay, so we're ready to glue these down. This is our little flap that we're using as our hinge, and this is the base of our book, and this is that wraparound cover. So we're going to start on the right side, and we're going to be putting these down. Now, if you want to round corners, you can do that. My book is square, so I'm not rounding corners today. And I'm not inking anything because this doesn't really require inking because I'm using colored cardstock. So I'm going to make sure I have that flap down, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in my first piece here. And I just want to make sure that I have the same amount of space all the way across, top and bottom. And then I'm going to put these on at that same level. So we'll get these all on. And once we have them all on, we'll go ahead and turn the book over, and we'll work on the inside real quick. And then we'll work on those pockets. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here's something to remember. When you're gluing these on this front cover piece, you want to line up on the folded outside edge because you have that little 1/4 inch gusset right there. So you want to be real careful when you put these on that you've got that right. So I'm lining up against that outside edge. Okay, and I have chosen to put a small slashed pocket in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some glue around this. And this is just a perfect place to tuck in those little appointment cards, you know, that they give you at the doctor's office. So I'm just going to put that right there. And that'll just allow me to put a little card in here if I want to. I have no mats for this, okay? So at this time, you're going to be putting your book in. And to do this, you're going to put glue on this one first. You're going to put your book down, line it up, top and bottom, and then fold that flap over. And then we're just going to open our book all the way over to the other side. And we're just going to make sure that that fits in there. And we're going to put some glue on this flap here. Make sure we've got our book in there nice and straight. And we're going to glue that flap down. Okay? So now we have our book in. Okay? You can see there's the book inside. And it is all ready for us to be able to work in the book. Now, if we want, we can add another flap up here. You know, we could put a pocket up here if we wanted to, of course, or another pocket here. It's entirely up to you. So now I'm going to set this aside for a few minutes and let it dry. And we are going to move on to the next part. So the next part of this is creating the pocket. For my purposes, I want the pocket, when it comes down, to have a curved edge. So I'm going to go ahead on just 2 corners here, and I am going to round these corners before I glue this down. And then I'm going to glue on my top flap piece. Keeping in mind I've got that 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So I have 1/8 of an inch on each side. Okay, and so then I'm just going to glue down my pocket. I'm going to line up this one side, make sure I keep it straight, and I'm going to glue this down. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and pop a hole in the middle here, and it is a 6.5 inch hole. So I'm going to do my pocket here, my little finger nip in the middle. I don't quite want it to be a 1/2 punch, just shallow of that. There we go. So now this is going to go on like this, and when you open it up, you're going to have this space. So we're going to bring this over. We're going to turn it upside down. We want that piece that's got that little flap on it. And at this point, we're going to miter the corner on this. All right, so now to work on our pocket, we're going to cut a piece that's about 6.5 inches long. And this is going to go across the bottom, so I'm going to put some glue on this. I've mitered the corners here. And I'm going to place this in the middle of the bottom of my pocket. I'm just going to hold it down till it seals. And then I'm going to cut some pieces for the side. And these are going to be probably about 2 inches, 1 3/4 inches, right in that neighborhood. I'm going to give a slight miter to the corners. One side only on the top. I don't really need to miter the bottom because it's not going to flop out, okay? A little bit of glue on this. I'm going to line up at the top of my pocket, just inside the pocket, and I'm going to put my socket on there. Same thing on this one. A little bit of glue. Line up my corner at the top. Just inside the pocket. We don't want this sticking out. And then we're going to glue this in. So we're going to put glue on all of our sockets. And we're going to bring our book in. And on the side that has the flap, we're going to go on the opposite side. We're going to bring this in just a little bit. I like to line it up with where I put my paper, my decorated paper. I don't want it hanging off too much. Okay, glue that down. And then I'm going to glue my top flap for this pocket onto this little flap. So I'm going to put some glue on my flap. And I'm going to line up the edge here along the edge of my flap. And it's going to be just a hair below it, below the crease. And I'm just going to hold that down. And now we have a flap that opens, and we have that nice big socketed pocket. So we have, you know, extra space in there, just like that. And now I'm going to take my book and turn it over. I'm going to make sure that I have it right side up. And we're going to bring back in that piece that we worked on before. And I'm going to show you how to finish this in just a second. We're going to need some Fabri-Tac, some lace or ribbon, and a brad, as well as whatever decorations we want to put on here. So I'm going to give you a minute to get everything together, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I have chosen some decorations and things. I've got a brad. Now, not all brads are created equal. Some of them have these thin pieces that come from the sides into the center, and I like to use the ones that are soldered in. I have some ribbon, some lace, a little flower, and most important, my center piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in a hole where I want my brad to be. So if I put this on here like this, do I want my closure to be way over here? Do I want to be in the middle? Do I want to be right here on the edge? It's entirely up to me. I'm going to go ahead and put this one a little bit closer to the edge. And I'm just going to poke a hole. This is my 3/8 hole punch. And then I'm going to feed my brad through the hole. Now, if I do this, what's going to happen is, and I'm going to show you this. So, two pieces, they go through the hole. Of course, they don't want to fit. If I do this, I don't really have a whole lot of room here. So if I want to create a little extra room, one of the things that you can do is take a piece of paper, just cut it, fold it up, and then cut it in the middle and use this sort of as a handle to just put a spacer in here to make sure that you keep this up, okay? And then on the other side, I'm just going to fold these prongs down. And I'm just going to make sure I got those pressed pretty good. All right. And then I'm going to cut some ribbon. And the ribbon I'm going to cut, I want to make sure that it goes around my book. And has some extra. Okay? Now, I am going to glue my ribbon to the back of my piece so that it comes out on the right. So that's where the Fabri-Tac is going to come in. Now you can use 3-in-1 or whatever fabric glue you use on here. So I'm just going to glue that down. There we go. Give that a second. And then I'm going to glue this piece over the whole thing. Okay? So you could use Fabri-Tac for this. You can use your regular glue if you want, but I think Fabri-Tac on here is just the right call. And this is going to go over the piece that's going to hang over. Okay? So you see it's going to be the part that hangs over. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm just going to get rid of some of this extra glue that comes oozing out. All right. Okay. So now I have to figure out where this is going to go on here. And what I do is I open this up. I figure out where I want it. I open it up and I figure out how big of an overhang I want here. Okay. Then I take my pencil and I just put a little bitty light mark. So now I know not to put glue over here. Okay. So glue. And again, I'm just using the Fabri-Tac on this because I'm using that piece of lace in there, a piece of ribbon, and I want to make sure that I get that well bonded. Okay? All right. Now, take my top piece, make sure I've got this in the center, top to bottom. I go right up to my line, and I just put that right on. All right, so to decorate this, I do have some lace that I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to cut off about 4 or 5 inches of this. I'm going to fold this over. Miter the corners so it looks pretty. And I'm going to be using hot glue for this. So I'm going to put it right here in this corner. So I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue. And I'm going to put this in the hot glue. And then I'm going to be putting this flower on that I have. This is one of those little birdie flowers. They're just so stinking cute. So I'm going to put some glue on the back of my flower. And I am going to put this right here. I'm going to press it down. And I'm going to be using my scoring tool just to go to the center of the flower. And pushing that down and holding it nice and tight in the bottom here. Now you could use a flat flower if you want to. You could use a bigger flower or, you know, like a cloth flower or one of those big paper flowers, whatever you want to do. All right, so now that we have all of this dry, we have our brad here. We just wrap the ribbon around. Bring the ribbon up. And it holds our piece. And at this point, we can trim this to any length that we want, just like that. Go ahead and bring the original one back in so you can see them side by side. So there's our 2 little planner, phone book, notebook covers. I will be showing you another version of this in another video to put a notepad into. If you want to have a notepad that you keep in your purse or in your pocket or your backpack, or even on your desk and you just want to know where it is, okay? So that's it. That's my little project for today. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me and for following along. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and put those in the description. All the measurements that I use will be in the description box below. If you have any questions, let me know. Till the next time, guys, do me a favor, hit the red button if you haven't already, and subscribe. Then like me, ring my bell, and share me with all your friends, because I'm making these little notebooks. Bye-bye.